My name is Rocky Hanchy. Thanks for coming on this evening. Most of us have went through Christmas already by now, and I've been online a little bit tonight, and I've noticed there's a little bit of sadness out there. There are people that have went through yesterday and didn't have anybody to spend Christmas with. And one day, I'm going to have myself my own, what do they call it, studio. The lighting will be perfect. I'll have all the cameras. That's going to happen, you know. But I want to just encourage everybody tonight in such a way that if I could just share some thoughts with you that will encourage you throughout the rest of this year and into next year. I want to talk about pleasures. I know I'm not going to preach on nothing. I'm just going to share some thoughts to consider and think about the pleasures of the gifts that God has given us as mankind. You know, I mean, we could have been dull and boring, but God has given us the most amazing ways to have His grace to experience pleasures. Think about that. I know that sounds crazy to think about, but it's not. When you really think about how God's goodness is for humanity as we are, I mean, wow, there's nothing better than well, you can fill in the blank. It's whatever you want to call it. Because, you know, your senses come alive when I think of that. And maybe it's a peanut butter and jelly sandwich or an ice cream sundae, who knows. But every pleasure that we have, it shares grace to our hearts. It's the grace of God that we receive. And every day we all experience a symphony of pleasures. Think about that. A symphony, Rock? Yeah, a symphony. Do you wake up and just go out there and experience all that God has given you to be able to do? Because we never earned the right to enjoy it unless it came from God. That's why I say it's His grace that gave us these beautiful, wonderful pleasures to experience, these gifts from God. Think about that. The sound of birds in the spring. I know we're in wintertime, but every now and then a robin will come by, or this evening I was listening to the music of geese flying overhead as they flew over me heading south. Or who knows, maybe they were just going to the field next door to me to entice me. But the music of their honking of their noise was just beautiful. Think about that. Or the delicate beauty of a rose, you know, when you walk into a store and you haven't seen flowers for a while, and there's roses in there, and what a gorgeous flower that God created. You see your eyes look at it and just fall into the pleasure of the love of it. What about the display of a sunset in the evening time? You got to admit, there's nothing like the beautiful sunsets in Idaho across the Rocky Mountains, or maybe where you live. But think about these pleasures that He gives us, or the pristine blanket of fallen snow. Yeah. The other day I watched it snow. I had the rare privilege and honor of taking a dear friend of mine up to a place called the Ice Palace. And as we approached the Ice Palace in eastern Idaho, the pleasantry of the snow began to fall. And how beautiful it was as the new snowflakes would land upon the surface of the floor, but yet some landed on our spectacles, our glasses. As we took up a nice picture of them, you could see all the different snowflakes and how God has made each one uniquely different. How about the tenderness of a kiss? I'm telling you. No, when it's a real tender kiss, maybe from your mom or maybe from your spouse or your boyfriend or girlfriend, or just, you know, there's nothing like it. How about the smell of flowers in the bloom? Think about that in the spring and the summer. As you walk through a flower garden, the whiff of flowers. See, I'm telling you, there's a lot of things that God has given us that we need to be so most appreciative for, because some of these things some people don't see. Some people don't get to see a flower. Some don't have a good sniffer. Think about that for a minute. How about the wide variety of taste and textures of food? I was somewhere the other day and somebody had brought in a hot plate of no-bake oatmeal cookies, you know, the chocolate kind with the oatmeal in it. They're warm right out of the oven. Oh, I don't know why it is that the texture upon my mouth just tastes so good. You got to admit, there's nothing like a piece of chocolate cake. And some of you eat too many hamburgers. And why so? Because you've love the taste of them. I don't know why. How about the glory of the wonderful piece of music as you go through a house or uptown? And I know some of you like the different types. Maybe it's country, maybe it's classical, but either way, your ears like it. It's all from God. Or how about the bright colors of leaves in the fall? Or the wonder of a master's painting or a great drama. I watched my nephew the other night perform in A Christmas Carol, and what a marvelous job he did. But thank the Lord for God's grace to give me eyes to see. Or here's one, the sweet voice of a child. There's nothing like the sweet, tender voice of a child, or the stunning grandeur of a mountain. There's nothing like seeing the mountains. I like being like deserts, I guess, but I love to see the mountains. God created for us a world of amazing beauty where pleasure exists all around. You see, we don't have to get into the depression of the days of where we think, woe is me. We can just look around and see what God has given us through our eye gates, our ears, our mouths, our noses, our hands, our brains, and so on, so that we could do what? Take in all the pleasure that he has given us. You see, he blesses us with good and beautiful things every day, every single day. That means that on your very worst day, because some of us are going to have some, we're going to have some rough days that come along. And on your very best days, you are blessed with pleasures that come right from the hand of God. Some of you probably hadn't thought about some of these things for a long time, but think about it. Don't take it for granted. Don't do that. The blind person can't see a rose, but yet they could probably smell a flower better than you can. That tells us this much, that we don't get these pleasures just because we've earned or deserved them. No, not because of that reason. It's because he is a God of grace. We have a God of grace that we serve. He gives us those things for us to enjoy. He graces you with good things. Why? Because he is good, not because you are. It's because he's good. The Bible tells us in Matthew chapter 5 and verse 45 that he makes the sun to rise on the evil and on the good, and he sends rain on the just and the unjust. So as you take tomorrow, will you take time out again tomorrow and reflect in your heart about the goodness of God and his grace and all these things that he's given us? Don't take them for granted. We serve a good God. I just wanted to share that with you. Think about this one. Do you deserve a tongue? You got your tongue from God. He graced you with the tongue, and your tongue lets you taste in all the textures that are out there. What about a brain? Do you deserve a brain? God's grace gave you a brain. It's true. Think about these things. He's the one that created you so that you could experience all these wonderful things. A brain. And what about your hands? They come from the Almighty God, created by the Master himself. Wow. He bestows his daily pleasures to you to be able to enjoy. Why? Because for one reason, he loves you. That's all. He just loves humanity. It's pretty amazing, isn't it? What about sights that take your breath away? I tell you what. Wow, I've seen some beautiful sights in my life. Just without words to describe. Nothing like it in the world. We serve a God of tenderness and patient grace. I wanted to share that with you tonight. Don't take it for granted. I love you all, and good night.